Hey everyone, Bartel's Bookshelf here with my end of the year book tag. I was very kindly tagged in this challenge by CriminOlly, who you should all check out. He's awesome. I'll leave a link to him in the description. But he tagged me in this challenge, and this is the first time I've ever properly been tagged for a BookTube tag. So of course I'm obligated, right? That's how it works. So let's get going here. The first question is: are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? I'm not sure how to answer this question because every book that I'm in the middle of reading was stuff that I started this year and stuff that I need to finish. I guess there's not anything I need to finish this year, but here's a something that I would like to finish. This is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I got this from Book of the Month Club. This is a literary novel about two twin African American women who are light skinned enough to pass as white, and how both of them take different paths in their life. One sort of lives as a black woman, the other lives as a white woman. There's a lot of other stuff going on in here, like multi-generational stuff. But I started this book in January, and I've still got that much left. I'm a little over halfway through. And I don't know why, because I like the book. It's really a really good book. It's beautifully written. It's very sad. It has a lot of poignant themes about race and and passing and sort of what does it mean to be white and that all kinds of stuff. It's a good book. I can see why people like it. It's just for some reason it's just taken me so long to get through. And I don't know why. Just some books are just like that, where it's like you read them. I mean, I don't know. This happens to me all the time. Maybe it happens to you guys too, where I start a book, I get a good chunk into it, and then I just stop reading because I just get distracted by something else. And I'm in the middle of reading 16 other books right now, including this one. So there's always. I mean, my ADHD ass, there's always new things coming that I want to read, or like I learn about something new that I'd never heard about, and I want to immediately read that. So it's just, I don't know. So I would like to finish this before the end of the year, just so this doesn't cross over into next January, because to be reading a book this short for this long is ridiculous. And I do like the book, so I really do need to finish it. But that's the only thing that I would say I feel sort of obligated to finish. The next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? I don't. Sort of themed reading is really only something I've started doing recently, since making more friends on BookTube and things like that. For example, like my Halloween reading, which I mentioned before. But no, I've never thought of having an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year. But it would be interesting to hear how other people respond to this question. What would you consider an autumnal book that feels like a transition? Actually, I mean, I haven't read any of these books, but I just remembered there is a book that I think could fit into this. Sorry about that. This is all off the cuff, but I just remembered I had a copy of this book, Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. The 25th anniversary edition here. I just love that cover. Isn't that awesome? But I bought this back in October or September, I think, because I was planning to read it in October, and that didn't end up happening. But from what I've heard, this is it's about a generation of sisters who are all witches, and sort of the romantic scrapes that they get into. There's sort of a magical realism bent to it. I know it was made into a movie in the 90s, the Sandra Bullock, that I've heard wasn't very good. And originally I wasn't interested in the novel because to me it just seemed like, God, I'm sorry, but to me it seemed like chick lit, and I just wasn't really interested in that kind of thing. But I was reading about it recently, and a lot of people were actually saying that it fits. It has a very autumnal feeling with kind of like pumpkin spice vibes. So that would count, right, as an autumnal read. So maybe I'll read that next year in January. I don't know. We'll see. The next question is there a new release you're still waiting for? This year, no. I have a bunch of new releases that I bought this year, but most of them have arrived already, and or all of them have arrived already, and there aren't any more coming out this year. But I do have a couple new releases that I wanted to talk about. Well, this one isn't a new release, but the sequel to this just came out. This is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I still need to read this series, so this will definitely be on my plans later, probably next year. But This is a very well-received high fantasy series involving like bone shard magic and stuff like that. And this is the first book, The Bone Shard Daughter. This came out last year, I think. I think last year, yeah. Maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember. But the sequel just came out in November. This is The Bone Shard Emperor by Andrea Stewart, number 2 in the Drowning Empire series. And the reason that I bring this up specifically is because this is new, but also I've mentioned this before. I'm friends with the author. She used to be part of my writing group a few years ago, and I always thought she was great. I always knew she was destined for bigger things, and now she has this trilogy that's been coming out from Orbit. I just think that's amazing, and I'm so proud of her. So. These are new releases that I wanted to read, and I just wanted to shout her out because I just think she's great. I haven't read these books yet, but I know enough about her and her writing to know that it'll probably be fantastic. I'll probably really enjoy it. So I would like to get to that. We'll see. The next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? I didn't really have any specific books that I needed to read or that I had that I could read before the end of the year. I just picked 3 books that I'm close to finishing and I know I will finish before the end of the year. So the first is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. This is obviously the first novel in the Vampire Chronicles. I'm buddy reading this with some friends because I was talking about how I've read this book before, but I've never read the rest of the series, and I've got 2 and 3. I've had them for a long time, and I've always wanted to read the other books, but I've never gotten a chance to. So me and my friends, who are also fans of Anne Rice, decided to read this first book together just to kind of get back into the swing of things. I'm nearly done with it. I'm about 67% through. I don't know. I've got about 100 pages left. And I haven't read this in about 6 years, but I've really been enjoying it on this reread, so I look forward to talking about that in my wrap-up. But I'm going to finish that before the end of the year. There's another one I'm currently reading and almost finished with. This is Nights at the Circus by Angela Carter. Angela Carter is one of my favorite writers. She wrote the screenplay for The Company of Wolves. She wrote the short story collection The Bloody Chamber, which is her interpretations of fairy tales. I love her. She has a beautiful prose style, and I've always been wanting to read more of her novels. I've read her short stories, and I've seen Company of Wolves like a dozen times. It's one of my favorite movies, but I've never read any of her novels, so I decided to do that this year, and I'm buddy reading this with another friend, JM from the Chrononauts podcast, so you'll hear more about this in my wrap-up when I finish, but I'm almost done. I've got about 70 pages left in this, so this is definitely going to be finished before the end of the year, and I'm really, really enjoying it, but you'll hear more about that later. And then finally, I have a library book here. This is Yes, Daddy by Jonathan Parks Ramage. This is a sort of modern gay Southern Gothic about an aspiring playwright who ends up in a relationship with a much more older, famous playwright, and he hopes to sort of use his partner's fame to sort of boost his own career, and bad things happen. I've been wanting to read this for a while. As soon as I first heard about it, gay Southern Gothic, a kept boy, in an abusive relationship with an older man, that sounded really intriguing, and I've never seen anything like that before in this kind of neo-Gothic tradition. In fact, there's actually a lot of Rebecca references in this book, but I'm really enjoying it. I'll talk more about this when I finish, but I've only got about 50 pages left in it, so this is another one that I will definitely finish before the end of the year, so you'll be hearing more about that soon. Is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? Shock me? No, I don't think so. Although I will say, I do think, depending on how this goes, Nights at the Circus could be a contender, but I've had a really good reading year, so we'll see. But I am really enjoying this, so that could be. But I doubt, based on how fast I read in the books that I'm in the middle of right now, I doubt that I'm going to find my favorite read of the year in this month. But who knows? I like being surprised. I would very much welcome a pleasant surprise. So I don't know. We'll see. And the last question is, have you already started making reading plans for 2022? Loose plans. I'm kind of joining in with Michael K. Vaughan from Stately Vaughan Manor in that I would like to try and read more Mammoths next year. I actually am not even in the middle of. I'm only about 1/6 of the way through Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is one of the many big, chonky classics I've been meaning to read throughout my life. And I was buddy reading this with a pen pal, and he finished it way before I did, and I'm still only about 200 pages in. It's very dense, but I am really enjoying it, and it has been interesting exploring more of these older French classics. Like earlier this year, I read Count of Monte Cristo, which I loved, and I am enjoying this too. It's a big book, and it's very, very difficult and dense to get through, but I do really like it, and so I would definitely hope to finish that by the end of next year. And there's a couple other mammoths that I would like to get to next year. Specifically, I would really like to... Hang on, I gotta grab more books. I have a few other mammoths that I would like to get through next year. A major one that I've got is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is the Anthony Briggs Penguin Classics translation. I debated which translation to get because I'm kind of a stickler for that sort of thing. But I really enjoyed the Penguin translation of Count of Monte Cristo by Robin Buss. And so I figured I would just go with Penguin this time. And also, I looked up the Larissa... The Richard Peviar and Larissa Volokhonsky translation, but I couldn't get on with it. The style was too sort of jagged for me. But I looked up some excerpts from this translation, and this is a fairly modern translation, 2005, I believe. And the prose style was much more my speed. It was very lush and poetic and pretty, and I like that sort of thing. So I figure with a big book like this, a good writing style like that is going to make it easier for me to get through. So, but I would really like to read that because, again, it's another major mammoth classic that I've always wanted to read, and I never have, but I have a copy now, and it sounds really good. So we'll see what happens next year. And on the subject of Russian classics that I would like to read next year, I also have this is from the library, but this is beautiful. This is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition of Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Again, I've never read any Dostoevsky. Classic Russian author. I've always wanted to read his stuff, and I've heard this is one of his best novels. I know, actually, Vaughn, this is one of his favorite books. He's got, like, multiple copies, but look at this. Isn't that beautiful? And the art was by Zohar Lazar. So yeah, I just think that's beautiful. If I really like this book, I might actually buy this edition, just because that's so amazing. It's so beautiful. I don't know much about this translation. It's a new translation by Oliver Reddy. I flipped through it a little bit at the library, but honestly, I just got this version because, well, one, it's Penguin, and two, that cover art is amazing. So I don't know. Another classic I want to get to next year. So just to round it all out with something else more interesting. So here's another horror classic that I would like to get to next year. Another favorite of Michael K. Vaughan. This is The Great God Pan and Other Stories by Arthur Machen. This is another... Arthur Machen is another classic horror author from the early 1900s. A big influence on tons of people like H.P. Lovecraft. I've always wanted to read some of his stuff, and I never have. I used to have the Penguin edition of this a long time ago, until I realized that it didn't have The Great God Pan in it, which is like his most famous story, and I don't understand why, but Vaughn has a video about that. But he recommended this version, which has according to him, all of his best stuff, including The Great God Pan and his novel, what is the name of the novel? Yeah, The Three Imposters, which is supposed to be really, really good, and I've never even heard of it or read it, so I look forward to that next year. So yeah, there is the end of the year book tag. And I forgot to say, this tag was created by Ariel Bissett, so go check her out. I'll link her YouTube. And thank you again, CriminOlly, for tagging me. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this. And yeah, if you've read any of these, or if you have any thoughts, just let me know. I love talking books. I could talk about books all day, so don't be afraid. So, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.